Well, welcome back to all the worksaholics from across the country, and we want to say a big thank you to Annie Mac Home Mortgage for sponsorship of the Annie Mac Nation. This is going to be the third part of a three-part series called the Customer First Professional Designation. And I couldn't continue without inviting you to get to know us better on Annie Mac Works, the group on Facebook. If you're a broker owner and this is the first time engaging with us, go to Facebook and join the private broker group. This is a broker only group. It's called the National Flagship Brokers Group on Facebook. And finally, you can dig deep and surf all over the place in anniemacworks.com. But none of it comes together if you don't consider pre-qualifications and loan applications with Annie Mac Home Mortgage. We hope that you believe that we're doing a good job for you and that you'll reach out to a loan officer in your local community and try to build a new relationship for pre-qualifications and loan applications. We certainly appreciate your support of Annie Mac Home Mortgage. Everything that we do at Annie Mac Works is about making you more money. It's about increasing your repeat and referral business, building a more sustainable, longer lasting, more rewarding career, ultimately increasing your earning potential by increasing your customer loyalty. The Customer First Professional Designation was broken down into three parts. The Voice of the Customer was part one, the 6-step sales standard part two, and today we're going to dig deep into the servicing standard that we think that we can set for a residential real estate industry that is ripe for change. The residential real estate industry has a tremendous void in Pass Me Down wisdom. There's a tremendous gap between the haves and the have-nots. There's very little middle class in residential real estate agents and brokers, and there's a Fortune 500 caliber opportunity for the right real estate agents that want to learn from the experience economy. When we studied on Monday, the first day of the first module, we studied Starbucks and Apple and talked about Disney. We introduced new companies like CrossFit and Salad Creations and old companies like Tiffany's Jewelers that really listened to the voice of the customer and created a consumer engagement enterprise. We invited you to listen to the voice of your customers through customer satisfaction surveys. We invited you to imagine what it might feel like to become the consumer engagement enterprise in your local market. In other words, what if instead of looking at the industry and noticing that there's this huge void, what if you decided to become the change that you wanted to see in the real estate industry? We talked a lot about the hierarchy of consumer engagement and trying to get to a place where your customers don't only recommend you, but actually argue that you're the best service provider in your industry, and they're excited and proud to tell their other consumers about you. During step one of Customer First, we talked about the consumer's aspirations and understanding that every consumer has a process of their own, a unique footprint, a unique fingerprint, if you will. No two consumer experiences are the same. And it's your empathy, it's your bedside manner, it's your nurturing and ultimately presenting that helps them discover that you are uniquely suited for their particular process of deciding, discussing, qualifying, balancing and hedging and weighing their risks, understanding where to search for, not only for their listing agent, but for their new home, and all the nuance and steps of negotiating a contract. During step two of the consumer engagement experience, or the Customer First Professional Designation, we talked a lot about the fears that consumers have about your competency and your care. Not just are you knowledgeable and experienced, but how much do you actually care about what's best for them, weighing their fears about their financial security and weighing their fears about any sales pressure or bulldozing they're going to see. We're emphatic at Annie Mac Works that listing presentations and buyer presentations at the onset of a relationship are the difference between the elite earners in residential real estate and the average earners in real estate. When we talk to average earners in residential real estate, we hear things like, I don't even do a formal listing presentation, or I just take people out and show them houses. When you talk to six-figure earners, plus, you hear about an environment where they're going to create positive professional control, that they're going to appeal to the aspirations and address the fears that the consumer has in a professional consultation or presentation. It creates a much more sticky relationship, and we believe and we hope that you'll discover that the most rewarding consumer experiences in residential real estate start with a thoughtful consideration. In other words, let's talk for a few minutes about your past experiences in residential real estate. Let's talk for a few minutes about the houses that you've bought and sold before and what went well and what went poorly. Let's talk about your intentions, and if you would like to build a lifetime relationship with your real estate agent and see that rapport and mutual respect and mutual understanding unfold in that proper preparation. I'll just say as a side note, I've closed about 3,500 residential real estate transactions in a 30-year career. And I will tell you that I would never talk about the price of a client's home. I would never talk about my commissions in any way, shape, or form until I've had a chance to sit down with the customer and discuss their intentions, their experiences, their timeline, their priorities, a little understanding about me, building some mutual respect. I think the number one mistake is people don't have written goals. The number two mistake is that they take buyers and sellers out quickly. They take them out and show them houses, and they take them out and put their listing in before they've had a chance to gain positive professional control over the relationship and to become a consultant and advisor bordering on a guru before they advise them on their price or their commission or take them out and showing houses. That is, I think, the second most disappointing discovery that we've had nationwide in residential real estate. Number one is written goals, the lack of them. And number two is that below average realtors and even average realtors don't gain positive professional control or seek to reach guru status or any level of credibility with their consumers before they list these houses, before they talk about price and commissions, and certainly before they show property. The 6-step sales standard is a checklist for real estate agents to follow to gain some sort of professional standard. And we talked about pre-client interview, pre-appointment drop-off, how to properly prepare for an appointment, what to talk about during the consumer engagement side of the presentation, the marketing side of the presentation, and how to discuss pricing and professional services. We gave you during part 2 a pre-client interview that was specific. We followed it up with the close of that pre-client interview. We also encouraged you to begin to use an email or hand dropped off pre-appointment package, including in that pre-appointment drop off a letter explaining these color listing brochures, single property websites, text autoresponders, explaining how you use QR code technology. And we gifted to you, Annie Mac Home Mortgage gifted to you these flyer templates so that you could quickly and easily impress a seller just by simply dropping in a couple of photographs on their house and maybe writing up a paragraph about that property. I think you could really make an impact on pre-appointment drop-off. During part 2 of the Customer First Professional Designation, we rattled through all of the checklist of items that we would require of you if you were an employee in the residential real estate business. But because we're independent contractors, our brokers don't necessarily or don't opt to require anything of our agents. There's 1.25 million real estate agents haphazardly doing it their own way. We'd like to recommend that no listing appointment is attended without proper preparation. And that proper preparation included destination properties, destination associate referrals. That proper preparation included finding out where the family's moving to and pulling up some properties, pulling up some realtors from that local market, talking to Annie Mac Home Mortgage and getting what's called a purchase loan analyzer, or some sort of an estimate of the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance that this family would incur when they consummated this move. We highlighted the emotional connection that a consumer is going to make to you when you took the time to pull up some sample destination properties, some sample associate referrals in those local markets, and finally the continuation of the process. In other words, you're not just focused on the listing, you're actually showing them how affordable their new home is going to be in their new market. I like to say with a firm hand that if you don't bring a loan analyzer and you don't bring destination properties to a listing, that you have knowledge. You have knowledge they're moving somewhere else. You have knowledge of what county they want to move to in Keokuk, Iowa, New Mexico. You know they're going to move to Clayton, Georgia. And you don't take the time to pull up some destination properties or some analysis of what they're going to spend there, then you're not putting the customer first. You're a slam bam, thank you ma'am type realtor. If you're not concerned with where they're going to be and how affordable that's going to be, and help them meet realtors in that marketplace, then you're just thinking of yourself on the listing side of the transaction. So listening to the voice of the customer through post-closing satisfaction surveys and following a very specific sales standard that includes 6 individual steps is what we've covered so far. Now we want to talk about how you can deliver the promises that you're making. How can you truly differentiate yourself in the context of servicing this listing? It's one thing to be a hell of a salesperson and to come out with a great presentation, to gain positive professional control, reach a level of credibility or even guru status, and then use that credibility and that status that you've created with the client to influence their decision making. That's called sales. But it's a whole nother thing entirely to have the type of an assembly line, to have the type of checklists, to have the type of to-dos in service to this listing once you have it. So we want to focus on 6 steps to a servicing standard, and I hope that you'll employ these the next time you're given a listing. And most of these are after the listing is taken. Now you can reflect upon them with the client during the term of the sales and due diligence and courtship. But really 1 through 6 of the 6-step service standard are meant to be utilized after you have the listing. Once you've taken a listing, the very first step is to create a sense of responsibility that the seller has to the condition of their home, and how that condition is going to be reflected in days on the market or the eventual offers that they get. See, staging is not necessarily about decorating. I believe that staging is about handing the baton of responsibility to the seller. It's about passing the buck back to where it belongs. In fact, if we don't make proper conditional decisions, if we don't make proper preparation decisions, if the home does not make an emotional connection with the buyers that are walking through it because of condition, clutter, darkness, dampness, dinginess, cobwebs in the windows, dirty windows, overcrowded furniture, and that families are walking into over-personalized religious artifacts or over-personalized personal effects. These things deter clients. If the house smells like curry or fish or cigars or a Great Dane or a Labrador, these are the things that will prohibit the house from selling. So while it is a ultimately world-class service to provide professional staging advice, the underlying intention from the real estate agent is to pass the baton of responsibility squarely where it belongs as it relates to condition commensurate with price. In other words, we can have this condition if you don't necessarily want to achieve the highest possible price. But if you want to achieve the highest possible price, we should address these things. So creating a positive professional control in the context of the staging dialogue is a fantastic step in servicing. So it's all about protecting your equity. It's all about helping you, the seller, achieve the highest possible price. So would you allow me to do what I'm trained to do and to do an analysis of the current and existing market, homes that are on the market, comparative to yours at this price? And would you allow me to give you some insight as to some free, inexpensive, or maybe some tough decisions that we might have to make to get the maximum price for this house? If you'll help me, I can protect your equity and help you get the highest possible price. The second step is, after the listing's taken, to establish a consumer expectation timeline. To say to a client, I want to talk to you a little bit about how we handle our level of dependable communication, how we're going to be communicating feedback on your home, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about what we can expect in days on the market, so that I'm putting the customer first by setting a tone. Now, during this customer expectation timeline, we're going to travel down the road of the next 3 or 4 months that we're going to have this listing. Hopefully the listing will only be 30, 40, 50, 60 days on the market, but in some situations you're 4, 6, 8 months on the market. Well, if you didn't establish this proper expectation with your consumer, then you could create problems in the customer service side of what you do for a living. So we say to a consumer that our communication has to meet your needs for you to feel comfortable. And the way that we've designed this is so that you're given a promise of dependable communication. Ongoing commitment to dependable communication can be demonstrated within the context of a specific timeline of upcoming events. I want to show you how weekly activities, monthly activities, and on-call activities are handled at our company. Every Monday you're going to receive a summary of the week's actions that we took and what's happened in the marketing of your home. Every Monday you're going to get post-showing feedback, if we've acquired any, from any of the agents that have come through to show your house, or if we've had conversation with agents about your house. And finally, we're going to forward you any similar properties that are in close proximity to ours, which have been listed, sold, or successfully negotiated. Now, I just formally read that to you, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to paraphrase for you how I would have the conversation with a seller. Look, you're going to get a full report from us every week. We're going to give you all the feedback of the showings, at least on a weekly basis, and we also want to keep you abreast of what new houses came on the market, which houses have sold. On a monthly basis, we're going to sit back down right here, exactly like we are today, and we're going to go over what consumers thought about your house, what they bought instead of your house, if any, why they chose those houses instead of yours, if that had occurred. And we're also going to go through professional recommendations on that monthly basis as to what might be affecting market changes or saleability. As a realtor, those monthly sit-down visits are the catalyst for price reductions. They're the catalyst to talk about the staging decisions that have or have not been made. They're the time for the realtor to let the consumer know why, in fact, the house is not sold. And then my personal favorite is letting the seller know on-call activities. I have email and text access on my person every day, 24 hours a day. And I'm going to respond to you as soon as humanly possible. But I want to let you know up front. When I'm in an appointment like this, I cannot respond to an email or a text in 20 seconds. I just cannot do it. I'm in an appointment with a client. So what you need to start to expect is that within an hour or two, while my other appointment wraps up, I'll be getting in my car and checking my emails and my texts. And you can also reach me if something's urgent by phone, but I promise you I won't be answering my phone if I'm in with a client in negotiating a contract. I really have to take care of each client one-on-one before I go and answer a phone. I wouldn't answer a phone in front of you. I'm not going to answer a phone in front of you. Remember, this conversation is taking place after the listing agreement is signed because I want to set a tone about what the consumer can expect in communication. Feedback versus showings equals responsibility. As we're traveling down this road together, we have to be open to the way that the market is interpreting our listing. In other words, if I bring a bushel of shiny red apples to the market and I open sale at $1.79 a pound for my shiny red apples, my shiny red apples are selling great at the market. But when somebody walks up next to me and puts their shiny red apples up for $1.50, it changes the market. And that market dictates how I have to behave. So I'm either going to move my bushel to a different market, which in real estate that is not possible, or I'm going to have to endure the reality that some other people are selling similar products for less money. And that is about responsibility. And that means that we're all in this together and we're aware of what the market is telling us. Specific market feedback includes how does your home compare to other properties that have been shown while yours is being shown? Is your property competitive to the available inventory and choices that are out there? And how did we rank in the mind of the consumers, in the mind of the agents, as it relates to square footage? Are we bigger, smaller, equal to? What about in features, condition, and value? We want to acquire that. We want to hear what they have to say. Condition and appeal is the location and neighborhood and over desirability relative to price. Or could you get a better neighborhood, a better location, or a better level of desirability for the same price? How does the curb appeal, aesthetics, and condition stack up? What are the perceived functional defects? Oh, they see this crack in the ceiling. They see a water stain in the ceiling. They see the pool needs marcite. Overall ranking in direct comparison to other available properties. Now, I promise you, every seller that I would list would be given this document and some form of review of it, because I want to hand them the reality that I didn't forget how to sell houses on this one. Every decision that we're making is affecting the saleability of this house. And how the real estate community, how the buyers are interpreting this house is vital to what you can expect in form of a timeline for how long we may or may not be on the market. Just before I go on, I want to tell you that I showed a $3.9 million house, and the community that was surrounding that house was average 1.7 to 2.5. Well, it was, I think it was 13,000 square feet. It was twice as large as the average house in the neighborhood. It has the twice better lot. It was the twice better decor. It was twice better than everything. But the feedback that we gave the client is we can't conscionably purchase this home for $4 million when it's functionally obsolete compared to the rest of the neighborhood. We would be making a financial suicide if we were to buy a home that was twice the median price for the subdivision. So we explained to the seller that we were going to need to go down the street to a community that averaged $4.5 million to go buy a $4 million house. And that feedback resulted in a $500,000 price reduction for that listing agent. So don't tell me that feedback, specific detailed feedback, isn't a catalyst for proper price reductions and condition changes. Don't pass the buck and let your seller blame you for not having the the house sold in a certain time frame. Too many rookie realtors think that they're being conflictive or rude or whatever. No, you have to have a firm professional control over the seller so that you can advise him or her as to where the problems lie. And I think that that's a key component of being an exceptional service provider. Ignoring a problem, putting your head in the sand about a problem, being nice in the face of adversity is not world-class service. If your stockbroker wanted to be nice to you and he didn't explain why he just lost 25% of your money and he wasn't willing to face that music with you, then he couldn't be possibly a world-class service provider. He has to be able to face the music and explain what's going on in the marketplace to keep your long-term trust. And that's the same with you in residential real estate. I pulled this document out many times, and the customer expectation timeline, sometimes the second, third, or fourth month that a listing is on the market, I can pull out this, remind them that we had this conversation in the consumer expectation timeline, that price versus value equals days on the market. And sometimes, even though a listing has been on the market for 2 months or 3 months, I'll pull out a document that looks like this, and I'll say, I don't know if you remember, but we had a conversation at the onset of our relationship where I explained to you that $359 was an inappropriate pricing decision because it was slightly above retail. And even though I thought retail price was $349.9 and you thought $359.9, what's happening is we're missing all the buyers that only search up to $350. And you know from personal experience, when you shop from $325 to $350 or from $3 to $350, you don't shop from $3 to $359. You shop from $3 to $350. So what I'm telling you is we're missing the most appropriate buyers that are looking for our home because we're above retail price at $359. Now, when you tab down to the second one, you're going to see a lot more buyers at $349.9, but you're still looking at almost 180 days on the market to achieve retail, full market retail price for this house. What I'm going to recommend to you is that we price this house right now at $344.9. Excuse me. If we're sitting at $344.9, we're probably going to have 2 to 3 showings a month. The realtors are going to be engaged with their buyers with second showings, and we're going to see a correlation between high online traffic and high click-through traffic. See, what's happening right now at $359.9 is we're seeing high online traffic. I'm getting 1,100 people a month to look at your house, but nobody's coming to see it. That's not a reflection of our marketing. That's a reflection of how the buyers are perceiving the value of our home. Now, if you tab all the way down to the fourth line, if you wanted to sell this house in 30 days or less, I think we need to be at $334.9, and that would be a very quick sales process. So if I were an agent that offered 60-day sale guarantees, if I were an agent that said, I could sell your house in 60 days or less, or I could sell your house by the highest price if you can close by August 30th, or I could sell your house in 60 days or I'll pay your mortgage payment, or one of those guru type statements, then I'm going to put $359.9 at the top, $349.9 at the retail price section, $344.9 at hard pricing, and really work hard to try to get them to pick that $344.9. And then if they want the 60-day guarantee and there's some sort of duress, then they've got to drop it all the way down to $335 to get this house sold. I am committed to achieving the highest possible price, but we really have to face market realities together, and that means you're sitting at $359.9. The challenge there is you're being compared to 350 to 400 homes that they're shopping for, and they're going down the street to other subdivisions. So we're running into a problem here. The next step of the 6-step service standard is to consistently increase the awareness of the caliber of the marketing that you're doing. And sometimes when you're in a listing, a relationship for a month or two, they start to question where their home is being marketed and if it's the best marketing plan. Well, we know that there's a finite supply of residential real estate listings, and that by increasing the marketing efforts, we can increase the demand. So we need to affect everything that we can control in the marketing of this property. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about my internet marketing strategy if you're the seller. I want to show you how we use my work suite to build virtual tour access on every property that we have listed. I want to show you how we mobilize the entire real estate community, and I'm not just talking about locally. I'm talking about statewide through IDX Exchange. I'm talking about how I share your listing information with 110,000 residential real estate agents in Florida, or 9,000 residential real estate brokerages in Florida. I want to show you how your property is sometimes not the focal point of a search for a broker, but it becomes a bump to property for a broker from Boca, or a broker from Palm Beach, or a broker from Coconut Creek. They weren't shopping in Coral Springs, but that now they end up shopping in Coral Springs, because you showed up on their IDX Exchange, on their website, on their searches. And then last but not least, I really think that accessibility for all prospective buyers. Gosh darn it, the guy's seen your house on a virtual tour. The guy's seen your house on a single property website. He's texted me from your sign writer, and he's inquired to get a single property website and a mobile app on his phone. Now he wants to come see it. And you're going to say, no, you can't come see it because I'm busy? That's the accessibility issue is a jarring deterrent for qualified buyers who have already seen the virtual tour, already seen the single property website, have already seen 29 pictures of your house. Now they want to consummate their emotional connection to your house by visiting it, touching, tasting, smelling, looking around the house. I think there could be no higher priority for us. So I'm going to recommend electronic lockbox, and I'm going to recommend that we make the house accessible and actually take the dog, take the kids, and leave the house when a consumer is that interested to come over and see our house. And I will always re-enunciate and print lists of all the leads that I've captured. I think it is world-class service to show a seller that 1,100 people viewed their property on Realtor.com, or 900 people have pulled it up on the MLS, or 100 people have clicked through on the website to see more information about their property. Because showing them that is like saying, hey, look, a lot of people are looking at this house online, but not too many of them are coming through to want to come see it. So, that's the next step is focusing on price versus the value equals days on the market, and how our marketing is going to affect this sale. The next thing we want to focus on is our cabinet of service providers. I think that you can do an exceptional job of featuring your mortgage professional, featuring your in-house attorney, featuring your title and escrow agent. If you use a concierge services vendor, or you use the GemCorp package from AnnieMac Home Mortgage, the concierge services that are provided are vital. If you have a full-time transaction manager, or even the paperwork processor in your office is featured in your cabinet of service providers, it's a great way to differentiate yourself to a consumer that you have this team that serve you. See, if you hire me as an agent, you're going to get this whole team of professionals, because that's how powerful, how professional, how thorough I am. And Craig Proctor actually shared this document with me at a seminar, so I want to give Craig full credit, and I'd like you to go to craigproctor.com to learn more about his marketing. But how most agents operate versus how I operate, we use this illustration of how most agents operate and say they're juggling too many tasks to keep on top of the process. That's why you hear so many horror stories about things that fell through the cracks, issues that didn't get handled. With our company, we have an entire team of professionals working for you versus just a single agent. We never run out of time because each of us has a separate responsibility or a specific process in selling your home. Together, our combined efforts add up to superior marketing and customer service, resulting in your home sold fast and for top dollar. I'm going to take the time to introduce my seller to each of these people and to give them their contact information. I think I don't want to run on and on and on, but negotiation nuance comes up when a contract is presented. We talked about servicing the listing and protecting yourself from a shift in credibility on a listing that's lasting 2, 3, 4, 5 months. You want to approach that seller with price versus value. You want to approach that seller with feedback. You want to approach that seller with marketing initiatives that you're doing. You want to approach that seller with this team concept and how you have this whole team behind you as the offers start to come in. And you want to approach them before they start to get uneasy. And you want to make sure that your computer is set up to send them those updates from the MLS when their house is listed with you. You want to set up automated emails that go out every Monday that explain what's happening with their listings so that you can't forget. Oh, Monday's Memorial Day. I forgot I was at the beach with my kids. Don't forget. Have it set up automatically as a drip. Now when an offer comes in, we want to really get down to the nitty-gritty on how we can avoid contract loopholes, how we can avoid contingencies that a seller said. See, a lot of times an offer comes in at the right price, but it has, first-time homebuyer grant program contingencies, or it has contract loopholes that can let the buyer out, or it has an offensive inspection and repair clause. I want my seller to know that if they work with an average real estate agent, they might have a little more stress in their closing procedure. As a customer first associate, it's my job to get you to the closing table free from stress. So my entire brokerage staff, the transaction coordinator, the concierge representative, the mortgage planner, escrow agent, and my in-house attorney, we all revolve around your personal satisfaction. And a lot of times I'll use this conversation at the beginning of an offer that I know needs to go through. Like, I want to address negotiation nuance before I present the offer because I want to set the tone for the seller to be prepared that we're going to accept this offer. This is the right offer to accept. It's almost like mental chess. You're setting it up that if we want to have a stress-free closing, we really need to address some of these issues and also let them know that this is a clean offer if you're going to hopefully make it a clean offer. Right after we execute a contract, I'm going to go over a stress-free closing procedure 6 weeks before the closing, 2 weeks before the closing. What happens 1 week before the closing? And when you set up this timeline at the onset of a contract, there is a calmness that overcomes the seller. There's this sense that you have it in control. And that is the concept of world-class service. We also move to pre-closing drill. Now let's suggest that in your market, in your local market, you believe that certain things have to happen 72 hours before, 48 hours before, 24 hours before. And these are the things that I believe have to happen in my market 72 hours before. It's not what happens 72 hours before. It's that you communicate to your seller that these are the things that are going to happen 72 hours before closing so that they feel safe, that they feel taken care of, that they feel that you are the expert in positive professional control. Because nothing worse than wondering if your real estate agent has it handled. I've talked on a couple of occasions about a dangerous time during the delivery of my third child, my daughter, and where there was about a 60 to 90 minute window where it looked like I could lose both my third daughter and the mother of that child, my wife at the time. What's interesting is I never doubted that particular OBGYN was capable and competent of handling that situation. And it's because before we went into the delivery room, he sat us down and explained what's going to happen. And when the proverbial hits the fan, you have this extra level of trust because he's explained what the procedure is going to be. I want to implore you to use the pre-closing drill, to sit down with your sellers at the onset of a contract transaction management and explain to them what they can expect from the final 24 hours before closing. We've given you our version of a customer satisfaction survey, but here's a light-hearted version that's called our ultimate scorecard. So at closing, you may pull something like this out and say, look, I told you my real estate broker is really hard on me about customer satisfaction. We're going to be sending you a customer satisfaction survey after closing. But if there were 5 stars to be earned by a realtor, the first star would be a successful closed transaction. The second star would be that you're at least 90% satisfied with the services we provide. The third star would be a letter of personal reference. Fourth star, we get a big old hug saying we did a good job. And the fifth star, wherever you end up moving, I want to be invited to your housewarming party. Confidentially, I'd like you to fill out this ultimate scorecard, send it into my broker to let him know if I'm a 3-star realtor or a 5-star realtor. That's just a cute version of a customer satisfaction survey. If you feel like you're attracted to that one over the formal, big old honking customer satisfaction survey, we can understand you might want to use something a little less formal or even pare down the one that we've given you. I would say that this has been a mouthful. I would say that all of my passion and conviction is wrapped up into what's broken about the real estate industry, what we fixed by becoming the change that we wanted to see in the real estate industry, and by 3,500 closings and testimonials and written letters of appreciation and acknowledgement that we've done an exceptional job providing world-class service and creating that special type of consumer engagement relationship that differentiated us from the other brokers and agents in the marketplace. And we can only hope that you got it and that you understand at a new level the gravity of a residential real estate transaction in the hearts and minds of your consumers, and that you address these transactions with the care and empathy and bedside manner which your consumers deserve. It's been my pleasure to host the Customer First Professional Designation by Annie Mac Works. And if you would like your certificate of completion, if you completed 3 modules, all you have to do is to send over to us at service@associateworks.com. Send us a note that you completed the Customer First Professional Designation, and include in it for us the name and email address of your Annie Mac loan officer. If you could send that email to service@associateworks, give us the name of your brokerage and your name, give us the name of your loan officer and his email address or her email address, and we'll be happy to forward that Customer First Professional Designation Certificate of Completion out to you. Make sure that you give us a good solid 24 hours before you ask us where it is, because it takes a little bit of time to organize them all and make sure that the modules have been completed, and it takes a couple minutes just to check the membership status of the realtor to make sure that Annie Mac loan officer that introduced them to it is actually getting credit for having introduced them to the program. So it takes about 24, maybe even 48 hours to get that certificate out to you, but we will certainly do that. With that said, we thank you very much for attending the Customer First Professional Designation at Annie Mac Works, and we hope to see you at the closing table, both as a mortgage professional and as a consummate real estate professional. Thanks very much.